Marcel Reed returning at quarterback for Texas A&M, and the Aggies are hoping to finally live up to all the talent. They've recruited tons of 4 and 5 stars, had top 10 recruiting classes for years, and never lived up to the top 10 hype. Is this finally the year that they can get it done, or is this another season where they fall short of the college football playoffs? They won't fall short of starting 2-0, though, with UTSA and Utah State, both guaranteed wins at home to move to 2-0 before a road trip to Notre Dame. This going to be a really close game. The Fighting Irish have a very solid team, but they're going to have a very young quarterback in either Kenny Minchie or CJ Carr making their second ever start. This is going to be probably a pretty close game, but we are going to lean with the experience of Marcel Reed and two very evenly matched teams. Even though A&M's on the road, having experience at quarterback is what counts. I believe that the Aggies will get it done on the road to move to 3-0.
Yeah, there's a lot of storylines for this game. Notre Dame beat A&M last year, and that was a big selling point in the Fighting Irish's playoff case. Going into this game, it's going to be both a quarterback battle along with it being a running back battle. You have Jeremiah Love on Notre Dame, who is likely going to be the number one running back in the country next year, if not number two behind either of the Penn State running backs. But Texas A&M has Le'Veon Moss returning. He did have a season-ending injury at the beginning of November, but was on his way to a very, very successful season. Likely going to be the starter when he returns. And I think if Texas A&M can just limit any possible turnovers that Marcel Reed is prone to from what we saw last year, I think they're going to be in great shape to upset the Fighting Irish on the road here. They do have a bye week after that game. Very nice to recuperate after such a tough opponent. And they will go into SEC play starting off with Auburn. The Tigers are one of the most hyped up teams going into next season. They're bringing in Jackson Arnold at quarterback from Oklahoma, along with a very successful transfer portal class and recruiting class. All the hype is there. Can they put it together and return to stardom? I don't think they're going to be able to at least this year. I think they're at least a year out from really returning to competing in the SEC, especially against a Texas A&M team that looks very solid. They are losing a couple key players on the defensive line, but the secondary looks strong. The linebacker core is going to be strong. And throw in the fact that this is at Kyle Field, the home of the 12th man, the Aggies are going to be able to get the win, start off SEC play 1-0.
And this isn't a knock on Auburn necessarily. Like Connor was saying, a lot of people really high on this team. And we do think that they have the potential to upset, some really solid teams, but they're not going to be able to win every single big game. They're going to lose the majority of them still. This just one of those along the path. Don't be too let down if you're an Auburn fan because there is a chance that they could pull off an upset at some point in the season. We just don't think it will be Texas A&M. The next week is Mississippi State, and there's no real way to sugarcoat it. The Bulldogs were the worst team in the SEC last season and likely the same this year. We're going A&M here at home, no doubt about it. Then it's Florida. DJ Lagway is a quarterback that we really like. We believe he has a potential to be a dark horse Heisman candidate. The Gators have a really solid team returning. They almost beat Georgia last season. They have the potential to beat some really good teams. And this is where I believe the Aggies' undefeated season will come to an end. We are taking the Gators despite the fact that it's at Kyle Field. This is a really good Florida team, in our opinion. Like I said, I like DJ Lagway. I believe he is better than Marcel Reed, and that's going to show on October 11th as the Gators get it done at Kyle Field.
And just to go off of what Jonah was saying about, even though this is at Kyle Field, to this point in the season, Florida will have been tested twice on the road and against three teams in our top 25. They will be on the road at Death Valley against LSU, on the road against Miami, and hosting the Texas Longhorns, who are our number one team in the spring right now. They are going to be battle tested. They have the probably the most difficult schedule out there. I know Oklahoma technically has the hardest one, but Florida's is just absolutely ridiculous. They're going to be tested to this point, and Texas A&M, of those four teams, quite honestly, might be towards the bottom end of it, at least from a quarterback position as well, because Marcel Reed is the youngest of those four. So again, not a knock on A&M. Florida is just going to be so tested to this point. Following week against Arkansas on the road, Taylor Green is a very solid quarterback, a lot of athletic ability, but I think the supporting cast around him is just not going to be as strong as what the Aggies bring to the table, especially coming off of that Florida loss. I think they need to right the ship very quickly, considering that the second half of the schedule is pretty difficult. So they're going to start off with a win here against the Razorbacks.
We saw this Arkansas team pull off a couple upsets last season, the main one being the win over Tennessee. And I think that they have the potential to be a scary team this season as far as, a potential upset team, but not really in this scenario. Even though A&M's on the road here, we like them to bounce back from that Florida game. And then another really tough road trip going to LSU. The Tigers have Garrett Nussmeier returning at quarterback. He is one of the favorites for the Heisman Trophy. The supporting cast, very strong. This LSU team is going to be really, really good. And with the home field advantage, I think it's going to be just a little bit too much for Marcel Reed and the Tigers. Kind of similar to how Marcel Reed was the senior quarterback in the Notre Dame game that gave Texas A&M the edge. Garrett Nussmeier at home is going to have a massive advantage over Marcel Reed. LSU will get it done.
And this also comes down to how good we think LSU's defense is going to be next season. That has been what has been holding them back the past few years under Brian Kelly from really rising to that championship level tier. I think this season they are going to be significantly better. They have really good linebackers. They're bringing in Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech, part of that Hokie secondary that was one of the better secondaries in the country. I just think this LSU team is really putting it all together to have a very successful season next year. It's just a matter of can they make it out of the SEC. After that game against LSU, they do have a bye week, good chance to recuperate down these last four games, starting it off with Mizzou on the road. Missouri is one of those teams that we're not super high on. We weren't super high on them last season either. We thought they were pretty overrated and shouldn't have been a top 25 team at times. But this Mizzou team is bringing in Bo Prabula from Penn State to be their starting quarterback, along with having a pretty highly touted wide receiver prospect that's supposed to fill in the role of Luther Burden, who is off to the NFL. I just think overall, this Mizzou team is not going to be as successful as we've seen them the last two seasons. I think they're due for a bit of regression, even though they are hosting the Aggies. I think they will be able to get a solid win here on the road.
Next is South Carolina. This is a team that we really, really like. The Gamecocks returning Lenoris Sellers at quarterback. He is a very, very solid player, another Heisman dark horse. And the rest of the team is also very strong, returning a lot of players from last season. The defensive line loses a little bit, but the rest of the defense has plenty of talent returning. And we think that overall, South Carolina is just a little bit better than Texas A&M, even though the Aggies have this one at home. We're going to go ahead and take Lenoris Sellers and the Gamecocks to get it done. Samford after that going to be a very, very easy win heading into the rivalry matchup on the road against Texas.
And this is going to be yet again another interesting game. It was a very low scoring affair last season with Texas pulling off the win 17-7 on the road. Now it's coming back home with Texas having the home field advantage, and it should be pretty interesting because Texas is going to be fighting for an SEC championship game appearance and is likely looking to be the number one team in the country. A&M at this point is looking to cause some chaos, and if there is some backdoor way to slip into the SEC title game, this is a game they need to win. I just think Texas is inevitable at this point. They have built a stacked roster. Steve Sarkisian is just throwing NIL money around to build the best possible team he can to win a national championship. Very close last year, just ran into a brick wall in that Ohio State defense. And I think with Arch Manning, if he plays the potential that everyone is hyping him up to be, Texas is going to be without a doubt the best team in college football next year. And A&M just will have no answers for either side of the ball against the Longhorns.
Yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same, as the Aggies will end up finishing 8-4. All that talent to go with a four-loss season, not making the college football playoffs once again. Our way too early projection was exactly that at 8.0 and 4.0. We predicted them to go 9-3. We've dropped it obviously to 8-4. However, the projection stayed exactly the same. Some of the percentages moved around a little bit, but in the end, it came out to the exact same number, 4.65 wins in the SEC. The floor for Texas A&M going to be 6-6. I don't think there's a way that they miss a bowl game. They, no matter what, should be able to be in the postseason at some point. The ceiling is 10-2, 7-1 in the SEC, which maybe would be good enough for the SEC championship. They'd definitely be considered for the playoffs in that scenario, but we kind of like them in the middle of that range, like we were saying, at 8-4. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.